Gnomes are common objects in lawns and gardens around the country. In certain parts of the globe, they're more than decorations. They're real, and they're evil. Figures popular in Renaissance folklore, gnomes are said to typically be underground creatures who wear tall hats. In Central and South America, gnomes are terrifying beasts who appear and disappear at will. They can either pull pranks or help wayward travelers. More people are reporting that these 2-foot-tall creatures are more sinister than they appear. Argentina, 2008. After a day of fishing, a group of teenagers spent the evening hanging out and planning their next get-together. They each heard what sounded like someone throwing rocks in the field across the street. In the full moonlight, they clearly saw grass move. A shape emerged from the field. At first, the teenagers thought it was a dog. What they saw next sent one of the boys to the hospital in shock. A tiny man with a wide-brimmed hat came out of the tall grass. He quickly shuffled up the road away from the teenagers and then back into the field. While this incident sent one of the boys to the hospital, it also sent the neighborhood into a state of panic. People who live there rarely venture out at night for fear of seeing the odd, shuffling gnome. Nicaragua, 2016. A woman, identified as Yasmina, was found in a cave near her home after being reported missing for a week. She claimed a group of small men lured her up a hill where they forcibly abducted her. They took her to a cave and held her there until authorities showed up. The little men disappeared without a trace. How did the authorities know where Yasmina was? The woman's family contacted a local witch who, through supernatural means, told the family where their missing loved one was kept. An interesting postscript. Another girl was allegedly kidnapped by similar gnomes and held in the same cave 15 years earlier. Argentina, 2011. A young couple observed their son Benjamin talking to himself as if he had an imaginary friend. They soon noticed a horrible stench of unknown origin permeating their house. After months of their son's insistence that his imaginary friend was indeed real, the mother set up a video camera to catch, if possible, the person or thing her son interacted with. Upon reviewing the footage, she saw a small, skinny humanoid figure run across the room behind the boy. Shortly after this shocking encounter, Benjamin told his parents that there were more of the creatures living in their house. Despite never capturing any more footage of the weird gnomes, the boy continued to play with the creatures for several years until the family moved across town. Australia, 2009. Kim Kimmins returned from a trip to New Zealand. Her children were staying at a friend's house for the night, leaving her alone in the house. Exhausted, Kimmins immediately went to bed. She soon heard several voices in her room. Several small people were trying to pull the woman out of her bed, feet first. There were at least 6 male and female figures. They were only a few feet tall, and they were dressed in coats and fluffy pants. Their skin was weathered and leathery. Kimmins passed out. When she came to, there were more little people trying to pull her out of bed. The frightened woman yelled out and kicked at them. She jumped from the bed and into the center of the room. The little people ran toward the wall, disappearing into thin air. Canada, 2004. Tim Kirk and his wife were driving back from visiting family. Along a country road, there appeared two frantic women who flagged them down. Kirk pulled over, and the two women told them that they had been driving when half a dozen little men with little floppy hats and beards came charging out of the woods at their car. One of the gnomes leaped on the hood, jumping up and down on it. This went on for several minutes. The little men then stopped and ran back into the woods. Intrigued, Kirk went to where the ladies parked their car. He saw nothing unusual, save for some unexplained movement in the brush. California, 2011. The Thomas household was fast asleep until they heard singing outside their window. Perhaps a car had parked nearby and its radio was loud. No, that was not the case. Charlie and her husband woke up and saw something awful next to their backyard pond. It was only a few feet tall. It had a long gray beard and wore maroon pants, a yellow shirt, brown vest, and a dark waistcoat. The gnome reached into the pond and snatched up a koi. It then slowly dropped the fish into its mouth. Mr. Thomas opened the window and yelled at the creature. The gnome shot them the bird. The Thomases called 911. When the police showed up, the gnome was nowhere to be seen. The next night, the gnome returned and ate another fish. Before the Thomases could act, the gnome ran toward their door. The Thomases had a dog. And a doggy door. The Thomases ran to secure the doggy door. Although there were no signs of intrusion, the Thomases would not live another day in that house. They soon moved.
Walleton Park in Nottingham, England is known for its impressive greenery and the spectacular Walleton Hall, but it is also the site of one of history's infamous gnome sightings. On October 29, 1979, a group of 6 school children were wandering the grounds in the late afternoon. They came to a fenced-off area where a lake was closed to the public. They soon heard the tiny chime of a bell, and then from the overgrown swampland around them came dozens of tiny little men. The men were about half the children's height. They all had white beards with red tips. On their heads were pointed caps. The children claimed they spent 15 minutes watching the gnomes before they left for home. When they told their parents and teachers, no one believed them. Their school's headmaster questioned them extensively and came to the conclusion that the children believed the incident happened, even if it really hadn't. As recently as 2016, there have been gnome phenomena in the park. It was reported that railways in the area were being haunted by the miniature humanoids to such a degree that train services were interrupted by the strange creatures. One witness saw a gnome lurking around a train embankment, fleeing after a train had come to an emergency stop.